Hello coders, today we're going to be looking at the best crafter I have ever seen. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So here we are in a different world and I've prepared 4 examples to demonstrate the abilities of this custom crafter to you. So let's start with the first one I made, which is a plant crafter. So here you have a nice little green background. You click to view recipes, it sends you to this recipe viewer. Now if there's more than 27 recipes, this slide bar will be able to move up and down. You'll be able to shift click to move up and down fully, and then you can click here to go back to the crafter. Now, each of these has a recipe ID. This is for tagging, which we will get to later. If I click here, it shows it as it would be in the actual crafting table. It gives you lots of important information, such as how many recipes are in this group. I'll explain that in a bit. If it's unlocked or locked, what type of craft it is, and it lets you edit it. If you are into survival mode, it won't let you edit it or see the tagged, but it will allow you to do the rest. Same thing for right here. This crafter settings will not be there for survival mode, which means they can't get into the settings. The settings is for all the crafters that you have in the pack. Each crafter has a different ID, so you can use it to summon the correct crafter item to place down. So let's look at the nature crafters to start. First off, you can save and load all the crafters down. So not just this one. Sadly, I don't have it per crafter. It bundles it all together and says, okay, we're saving all the crafters. If I click this, it'll place me in this position. If I want to cancel a save, I simply break the structure block. But in this case, I don't want to cancel it. So I click save. I click here, the save button, and I click here, and boom, it saved all the crafters. The load is similar, except you just click load and it automatically loads without you having to do anything. So then if we look back here, there are a few other options. We can delete the crafter. Now this will only work if there's more than one crafter. This is because you need a crafter to actually get to this menu. So you have to be able to, get to the menu so you can add more crafters. So there's only ever can get down to one crafter. And if I click here, it sends me to this screen. Now this is because I don't want people to accidentally delete their entire crafter just by misclicking. So you have to click here and then you have to move it there consciously, otherwise you can click back. Now this right here, you can't see it because of the GUI screen I'm set as, but it'll basically tell you what I mean here. So these are all the slot settings for the crafter. So this is a blank slot. If I shift click, I can change this to, let's say, 1. So now if I go back to this crafter, this middle slot is completely covered. You can't put anything there. And you can work this into your GUI display. You can do this with any slots out of the 9. And I have some defaults like an arrow, another arrow in all 4 directions, a plus symbol, weird hourglass, equal sign, corner symbols, and then you're getting to the recipe displays, which I'll get to in a second. You can add all the way up to 9 million, I believe, just like that. So here you have the crafter recipe viewer display. If you shift click this, you can see the current crafter display. And if I change this, it changes to the viewer. And this tells you the info right here, the plus and minus, the 9 million. And so that's pretty standard. Same thing here with the recipe viewer. And so this data pack does not help you make the custom textures and such. It helps you implement them without having to do a single line of code. So now this is all set up as it normally would. And you see here, all this looks nice. Now over here, we have the recipe viewer enabled or disabled. If you click this, it's now disabled. And now no one can see the recipe viewer, even people in creative. So they just have to trial and error and remember the recipes. Otherwise, you can just click that back to enabled and you can view all the recipes here. Next, you have 2 pretty important areas. The first one is the hitbox area. So if you click here, this gives you 25 different options for hitboxes. Now this can range from a solid block to glass, to stairs, slabs, basically any shape. And if it's one of these 6 item hitboxes right there, you can change its color to any color you choose. This is just set to black, but it doesn't matter because this is a 4 pickle hitbox. If I grab this, you can see, if I break this, it's a 4 pickles hitbox size. and it bounds correctly because I set the display up correctly. So if we go back in there, then this is the display. So this essentially is the item you use to place the crafter. It has to be an item frame. It will automatically, once you place the item frame in this spot, gain the correct data to place that crafter. So if I just get an item frame and I place it in this slot right here, and I get the new one, not the one I currently had in there, it will now place a crafter. The display is gone because the custom model data, this item frame, is 0, but all the data is in there and you can break it such like that. So now you see this now shows an item frame, and if I go back, I can just replace it, and now it looks all neato. So those are the main custom abilities of the crafters, with the Crucible, Refinery, Imbuer, all such. And if you want to create custom names, that is like the one possible theoretical spot in this entire data pack where you have to use one command block where you get the name of the crafter right here, and you have to input it yourself into a command block. But I don't know if I'd even fully count that. So that is the crafter's custom ability. So now we have finished up the crafter's custom ability. We are going to go on to the recipes. So for this first recipe, we have 6 ferns being able to create a lily pad. Now you notice you can click on this to view the recipe for ferns, which is 6 grass equal a fern. And then you can click back. Or if you're here, you can shift click and go all the way back to the main viewer. That's a little customizability there. Now this is a movable craft. What does that mean? So if we click edit, right, we can look at this and we can edit, move it around, whatever. And as long as it remains essentially the same craft, as long as you don't change like it all, it will stay as the same, although it might move into a different group if you change the output. So now if we look here and place 6 ferns like this, it sees that as a lily pad. What if we move it here? It also sees it as a lily pad. This is because it's movable. It can move around the grid as long as the orientation is the same. Now, let's say we had a shaped craft. A shaped craft can only work if it's in that exact spot. So if I said you can craft a fern from an item frame, that tells you if it's saved. If there's nothing there, it'll tell you don't have an output, you don't have an output and an input, or some other thing such as it already existing as a craft. I think this would say this recipe already exists, yes. And you see, wait, where's the craft? It's right here with the fern because it grouped. So it grouped into the same output, even if it has a different count as the output. So that's what I meant earlier about how it can change out of the group. If you change the output, it'll either create a new group or move into a new group, and the whole group might collapse if it was the last one there. So if I go right here, boom, except it's shaped, so it has to be in that center slot, and there can't be any other items there. So it's a shaped craft right there, just like that, and now I'm gonna delete that. So if you're editing a recipe that already exists, it will delete it from the database, but if you just click the plus and are adding one, it just clears it and lets you continue editing. Now, what are some other options? Well, there's mirroring. So let's say horizontal mirroring, and let's get a stick, iron, and an axe, like the most conventional use of mirroring, right? Just like that, it's shaped. Click save. Let me go here. So now, this gives me an axe, but so does this, because it's mirroring on the horizontal axis. So horizontal mirroring. I can change it to vertical mirroring, which would look kind of weird, and I can change it to vertical and a horizontal mirroring. That is almost a shapeless craft, but is technically still not. So now I can just delete this and that craft goes away. Now you have locked. So what does the lock tag mean? So essentially, if a recipe is unlocked, any player can craft that recipe. If it's locked, they need to have the correct tag to get the recipe. So to do that, you look here in creative and see recipe ID 35. So you would do tag scoreboard player set address tag 35, right? And let's say I made this chorus flower locked. So it's locked. If I'm in survival mode, it shows as locked. I can't view it at all. But if my tag is set, my score is set to tag. So if I do function add tag as the player, now I can view it even though it's a tagged recipe. So that's how tagged works. It basically makes it so it's recipe unlocks, it's advancements, essentially. But it goes a little step beyond and basically automates the process of advancements. So recipe explorable. To unlock this recipe, you have to craft it. Now I already have the tag for it. So I'm gonna go here and I just gonna remove tag. So now that I don't have the tag for it and it is explorable, if I go back here and go into survival, it's locked, except if I place this here, I can craft it, and once I do, it's unlocked, just like that. So now, let's move on to the next part, which is slot settings. Now, essentially slot settings is how the recipe interacts with each individual slot. So blocked means it still requires the item to be in that slot, yet it will not take from that slot. Then damaging, only use with tools or weapons or armor or things that take damage. Now if I shift click, so now this costs 11 damage to whatever is in the middle slot. If I say it takes an iron axe and, I don't know, an item frame to craft a stick, and I click save, well, that added to the stick area. And so now if I take an iron axe and an item frame, nothing happened because it's not in the right spot. And it's a shaped craft. It needs to be exact those spots. Take a stick, takes a little bit. Take a couple sticks, takes a lot. Shift click the sticks, takes almost all of it. So that's how the damage system works. And if you look there, you can see it's saved as that. Also, a nice little additive feature is it tells you how much durability it costs in the recipe viewer, so the players can know that. Otherwise, they'll think it just costs the entire item. So the last feature is the autofill. Now, this one took a while to get right, but essentially how it works is if you have the correct items in your inventory, such as these ferns, in either game mode, it doesn't matter, and you click this little autofill button, boom, right there, takes out the 6 and puts it in there. Let's say you wanted it to work for this. Works. Just a little bit there. Takes the exact item. It'll copy over enchantments. It doesn't, delete anything. Just autofill. Just like that. Now, I was actually wrong when I said it was the last feature. There's also the sound feature. This gives you 14 options for what sound it will play once you create the recipe. Enchanting table, chest, smithing table, cartography, stone, loom, bell, extinguish, brew, grass. All those options. So this is a grass one, right? But I can't do it. This one's also grass, okay? Hear a slight grass sound. Grass is very subdued. For others, such as oak planks, will do cartography, like that. So you can really customize it or just have nothing at all. So those are all the different abilities the recipes can do. So now I'm going to go through and show some examples with these, such as you have the cobweb here, where it can move around simply like that, anywhere you want. Or you have with rose allowing you to craft half a stack, flint and steel costing 5 durability. Already looked at the chorus fruit. You have multiple in a group. It's a little bit wrap up. So now let's look at the other 3 examples I've made. They're a little bit redundant, but I think they will add some more fullness. Also, these examples will be in the data pack in the description below, and so you all can mess with them on your own. I don't really care about the rights to the examples themselves. Although if you do use the crafter, please credit me as I've spent 5,000 lines of code writing this. So now let's look at the Crucible. Whoa. Yes, so this is a really good example of how you can use the display feature in the crafter to use like an animated texture or such. And here you can just take ores and forge them together with stone and coal, or with stone and redstone, all those fun features. And these are all really easy to make because you can just click here, put them all in, put that, say, oh, I want a extinguish sound. Let me go right there, extinguish sound. I want to lock it, or do I want to explore? What do I want to do? You can save it. It's like, wait, you don't have the items. Or you can just clear. You can shapeless, movable, very changeable. Then you have the refinery. Okay, so the refinery, I made some actual custom recipes for. So you start with the hammer. Now, to craft this, use prismarine shards, iron sticks. Here, let me grab those items. And I'm too lazy, I'll just use autofill. So now, I have the hammer. I can use this to craft iron sheets. Grab these items. Craft some iron sheets. It doesn't really cost much from the hammer, but you do need a good deal of them to create the enhanced armor. So I do need the chainmail leggings for this. I can craft the enhanced armor, and look at that. That takes like almost half the hammer. It's really expensive because they're kind of powerful items. What do I don't have? Oh, because this one costs 200. So I don't have the hammer that's strong enough for it. And there you have it. So these are just a couple custom items. This makes you twice as strong with your health, which I showed in the sneak peek. And this one makes you twice as fast. Then lastly, we have the imbuer, which doesn't have a title. Ooh, spooky. And this one, I really took a abstract approach to its visuals and such, where it's very simplistic yet ethereal at the same time. And so I can click here, and these are the dust and orbs from the sneak peek video, where you can just craft the dust and orbs. I don't need to show this again, I already showed that. But you can really have the full spectrum now with all of the abilities. To wrap up this video, I'm going to show in totality how to add a custom crafter and make recipes for it and the such. So let's get into that. So to start with, here are the recipes I want to add. I've prepared some Illyrian leather, diamond dust, and using some iron sheets and all the such. So how do we start this? Well, you're going to need to start with the item that you want it to look like. So Entity Model 7 is the model I prepared. I'm not going to call this a nature crafter. What should we call this? Advanced crafter. That's fun, right? And then we just get a button, and you have the advanced crafter. Now, I wouldn't click this yet because it will be a different crafter because the crafting ID is not set. To do that, you click add crafter, just gives you a blank crafter. And then we just click that right here. Now this new one has the correct. I'm gonna do up trapdoor. So if I place that right there, there we have it. Nice little crafting table. No recipes because it was just created, but you have the advanced crafter. And to break it, you simply need an axe, although anything will work because it's a trapdoor. And you get the item just like that. So now let's add our recipes. So to start with, we want a diamond to diamond dust, but does that fit the advanced crafter? Not really. That more fits the refinery. So we go over here, we just do that. Shapeless, diamond dust, anvil sure. Save. Now we have that in there. So now anyone who has access to refinery can use the diamond dust in the advanced crafter. Now I'm going to allow you to get a diamond back in the crucible, but it's going to cost 4 instead of 3 because I feel like there needs to be a consequence for changing it into dust. Conservation of mass, yes, while in Minecraft could be perfect, I want to emulate real life a little bit here and make it so it's not perfect. So then we are going to allow the crafting of Illyrian leather. This is going to be that can't happen in survival mode, but yes, they are all chain command blocks. So we're going to add our first recipe to the crafter here, and you need 3 dust, so 9 dust and 3 phantom membranes, but we're going to make this so it's horizontally mirroring. So essentially what that means is you can flip these items and it'll be fine. So Illyrian leather, let's see, do we want a sound? How about cartography? That sounds good. Save. Let's see. And you'll notice I can flip this and it also works. There, Illyrian leather. Then we're going to add the elytra craft. Exciting. So you can craft the elytra with the leather like so, and dragon egg. But do I really want to cost an entire dragon egg? No, so we're gonna block that. So you need the dragon egg to craft it with Illyrian leather, but it doesn't cost it. Autofill enabled, obviously, because I like having, customability for the people using recipes, and a loom, sure. So now I can click here. There you go. You get an elytra. Dragon egg stays, of course. Then we have these two. So we are adding a name tag. I'm good with that. That can totally be allowed. You might notice, how did I open that? Well, it's the trapdoor. So if you shift, you can open it just like that. So you might want to be choosy with your hitbox choices, but for this, I'm fine with players be able to bug it out and such. So we have the paper right there. Name tag, string. Nothing special here. We can have no sound for that one. And boom, just like that. You can now craft a name tag with the advanced crafter. Lastly, we have a trident. It's a pretty simple craft. 2 diamonds there. Sorry, 2 prismarine shards there. Yoink, yoink, and yoink, and boom. This goes over here. You save, boom. And now you can craft a trident in Minecraft. Now you might be thinking, okay, how do I get these crafters though? If I just start a world, there's no way I can get them, right? Well, when you start a world, when you download the pack, there will be a generated folder. Here, let me cut and show you that. So I've made a little mock-up to show you. So here is an unzipped folder of the Mediafire download. So you want to open that. This is just a mock-up though. And in order to make sure the resource pack is correct and the data pack are correct, right inside there should be a pack.mc meta for both of them. So you want to go into the folder rabbit hole as far until the folder you're selecting has a pack.mc meta right inside of it. And you're also going to have this generated file. You know, what is this, Money Raider? Well, the generated file is where structure blocks are saved. So you would want to copy that. That does nothing because it's empty. You want to copy that into the world before you place in the data pack. Then you place in the perfect crafting data pack and obviously have the resource pack set up. And then you do a /reload. Now, this world has already been instantiated, but what if this is the first time you're loading the world? Well, I can simulate that by doing scoreboard objectives remove crafting ID and doing a /reload. So when it first loads in, it will load the crafters automatically. Ignore the complete location change. So let's say you loaded in a data pack before adding the generated file. That is okay. You can simply use the function load all crafters and it will load all the crafters in the world, same as the menu icon. But be careful because they do the same thing, and that is overwrite the current saved crafter data with the stored crafter data. Now, if you make changes that you don't want, that is great. But if you make changes you do want, then be careful to not do that or to save so the stored data is the same. Now, you're here and everything's loaded. What do you do now? How do you get access to the crafters? You simply do the function give crafter. This will give you essentially a random crafter. And from here, you can get all the rest by doing it like that. But let's say you want to get it for a survival player, and you want to do it naturally. So you want to have a knowledge book advancement system where you can just craft in the crafting table and get the item. How do you get them the specific item? Well, if you notice here, these all have craft IDs, and they're not like 1, 2, 3, 4. They change, or they don't change. That's the point. They stay the same even if you delete crafters between here, which is like what that happened. So if you see that craft ID, and I do, then let me look at one. Let's say refinery 7. Scoreboard players set at S crafter ID 7. Set it to the player, and then instantly after that, do the function give crafter. They will get that crafter. So that's how you can incorporate it in that way. And then you just place it, and you have the crafter. And if you break it, I'm in creative, so it won't drop. But otherwise, it would.
One last thing to add, this data pack is fairly efficient. It is not the most efficient of custom crafters out there. That would probably be Cloud Wolf's custom crafter he recently uploaded, but it is very efficient for the amount of data it takes and the fact that it's not a score-based data pack. And as you see, there's barely any spikes, and those spikes are when you click. So as long as you're not spam clicking 1,000 million times a second, you should be good to go.
That's about it for today, folks. The download links are in the description. There's the 1.17 and 1.16.5 version. Thank you for watching that in the video. It truly means a lot, especially with how big of a project this one has been. I really hope you can use this tool to its fullest potential and make amazing things for your own data packs. Please do give me credit for the tool, but anything else that's your code, go for it. And as always, keep coding.